there is no way they're going to build an undersea pipeline under the Caspian Sea. Those two countries are incompetent to do anything that difficult. And, Russia is not a country, it's a criminal organization. They know how to do all this stuff. They've been doing this. I'm saying that really the West has to put the boots to China and India. They are buying the vast majority of this oil, however it gets there. And they're the buyers. And they've got to be either taxed for buying it or they've got to be prevented from buying it. And, they both need Europe and the United States as markets to trade in. And that, to me, is where the tariffs should be applied.
And whatever pressure it might be causing or not, President Putin is at pains to demonstrate that he has allies now that can help him. It was no coincidence, was it, this video call with President Xi after Trump's inauguration?
Exactly. He's trying to say, I'm not isolated. I'm still operating. Business as usual. They can go through their charade. You don't scare me, Donald Trump, and you won't scare me, Donald Trump. And, he goes around and signs all kinds of things and struts his stuff. He signed a military defense deal the day that the ceasefire started in Israel with Iran. He just snubs, thumbs his nose at the West at any possibility. And then lately, and this is quite laughable, he's signed a pipeline deal to take gobs of natural gas to energy-starved Iran. Now, if you think that those two countries can build a pipeline, a gas pipeline, thousands of miles long under the Caspian Sea, while both of them are involved in major wars, it'll take decades. It'll never happen.
And that was to bring my next question, actually, that the strengthening of military ties between the two, the 20-year strategic partnership between Iran and Moscow. What effect do you think, though, so the gas pipeline itself, you think it's never going to happen anyway, irrespective of Azerbaijan's position over the downing of its plane on its territory?
And I mean, it's snubbing and flouting the wishes of neighbors and allies and certainly enemies. And so I'm just saying that there is no way they're going to build an undersea pipeline under the Caspian Sea. Those two countries are incompetent to do anything that difficult. And, it would take years to do it. So it's absolutely symbolic and nothing more.
Okay, so there's no implications then for the Russian economy or for stability in the Caucasus over any of this?
Not until it's done. And remember, the Ukrainians have shut off gas transport, the pipeline to Europe. So this is pinching them. There's no question. But they're very capable because they're a bunch of crooks and cheats to get around any rules and regulations that are thrown in their path. And he is just throwing bodies. I mean, the reports coming from the front line are that he is optically making sure that it looks like Russia is not losing ground at all, and he's throwing everybody and everything at it. There's even reports of people on crutches that were Russians on crutches that were forced to leave their hospital beds and get to the front and rush against Ukrainian troops. I mean, he's playing this game.
And Diane, on that point, the Supreme Allied Commander Europe has said that Russia actually doesn't have the troops to make a breakthrough in Ukraine. Is this perhaps an opportunity at the moment?
It's not an opportunity as long as they're not being pushed back. If they're being pushed back, but they're not being pushed back, it's a stalemate. As long as they are gaining a little ground or not getting pushed back, they have no incentive to go to the table. And this is the problem. So everything has to be brought to bear on pressuring him to stop and go to the table. And that includes flooding Ukraine with even more weapons, more long-range attacks into Russia, cracking down on oil transport, going after China and India, I mean brutally, for buying this stuff, and Turkey for being an intermediary. All these things have to be imposed. And then his little global network of warfare will start to grind to a halt.
And what about giving the $300 billion of frozen Russian assets to Ukraine? This has yet again been brought up at the Davos Economic Forum to do so. Do you think, it's claimed that this could keep Ukraine in the fight for another 3 to 4 years without any kind of extra foreign support. Where do you think this is going? Is the argument getting stronger? Are we likely to see any movement? And do we even know where Trump stands on this?
I don't know where Trump stands on it, but I know where he stands on the fact that Europe has been the biggest disappointment in this whole Western alliance. Europe has not met its NATO requirements. Europe has not done enough sending military aid to Ukraine, and that's the problem, and that is the weakness in the alliance. It's not America. It's not America's you know delay in sending weapons. It's the fact that Europe hasn't, and Europe is not building armed forces and resilience against future onslaughts, and even though they're next.
Can I just lay out a scenario that was painted by the financier Bill Browder at the Davos summit about the consequences of not providing these frozen assets? He warned that basically failure to provide those assets could have a dire security consequences. It could mean Ukraine being forced into a shabby kind of peace deal, which could lead to mass emigration from Ukraine, chaos for Europe, and an opportunity for Putin. Do you agree with that potential risk?
Oh, the 300 billion is something that Bill and other people like me have been pushing for. And the problem seems to be the European Central Bank, because again, it's the price that Europe is paying for taking care of the dirty money of the Russians and everybody around the world. Where does all the dirty money from African despots and South American kleptocracies and the Russians go to? It goes to Switzerland, it goes to Liechtenstein, it goes to London. These are the place. Europe is responsible, the euro particularly, responsible for harboring all of this dirty money from not just the Russians. And it's good business for Europe. And so to seize the frozen assets of Europe is maybe going to make the euro crater, because the euro is floating on a sea of dirty money deposits. And so, again, it's a European problem, and it's long overdue, and it's really quite appalling that they haven't that they haven't just said, okay, well, we have to do it anyway.
What do you think, though, about the argument of Ukraine being forced into some kind of shabby peace deal, which has a catalyst effect in terms of migration and chaos across Europe, in terms of the numbers of people flooding out of the country?
It's terrifying, which is all the more reason why I don't understand why Europe hasn't grown a spine on this. I'm not talking about Britain, I'm talking about Europe and the EU, and lots of money for humanitarian, lots of refugee, social benefits being provided to millions of Ukrainians that are already there, but they ain't seen nothing yet, just as you said. And, we cannot have this. Now, it doesn't look like Trump would abide by that. Rubio has come out strongly saying we have to have a strong peace, a smart peace. The Maloney came out and said, after meeting with Trump in Mar-a-Lago last week, there is no way that they're going to give away Ukraine. And then, of course, behind all of this is something that I've written about, and that is that Ukraine, as it exists, even having lost about 17% of its land, has $46 trillion worth of natural resources. That goes to the partners who liberate it, not goes in a check, but it goes to them to take opportunity to develop this huge wealth, and Europe is going to be the benefactor. So once more, all of the tedious politics, local politics in Germany and France and Hungary and so on, is really, I think, been a break on Europe's realization that it has to be a superpower.
You've been watching Frontline for Times Radio with me, Kate Chabot. If you'd like to be the first to get exclusive content, you can sign up for membership with the link below. You can also listen to Times Radio for the latest news or read it on thetimes.com. My thanks to our producer today, Louis Sykes, and to you for watching. Bye for now.